You have to have something to work for. Don't try always to get shorter hours and more pay, because usually you don't know what to do with the money after you get it. And you just squander it away, and besides, life becomes that much more expensive, so you are exactly where you were before. But you accumulate nothing but money, and money can lose its value, as we very well know now. The dollar is going down just about as much as the salaries go up, so what good does it to us? But we have to have a motive in which we can believe. And unfortunately, I may say that I think that the crisis of our time is that we have lost our traditional values. The values that we never questioned when I was a child, the values, let us say, of whatever our religion was, the values of being faithful to the crown, the values of being, if you have no higher ideal, of being at least motivated to earn an awful lot of dollars. Rich people I know an awful lot because my work was very rich, and I had to beg all my life from rich people, so I knew them. On the whole, the suicide rate among rich people is much higher than it is among poor peasants. They are not so happy. They think they are. They start running for money, and then they forgot what they wanted to use the money for. So you have to have a motivation. You have to have a direction which is really yours, your own thing. And I gave this once to a meditation society where there were an awful lot of hippies, and they nominated me the world's only square hippie. Because if there is anything more square as an occupation in biochemistry and physiology, I can't think of it. And nevertheless, my code is do your own thing. Not what your parents or teachers or preachers say, but do your own thing. There are racehorses in humanity and there are turtles, just as there are in nature. And if you are the racehorse type, then don't let them tell you that you owe it to your parents or to your standing or your ancestors to do something. Who said so? Who has the right to tell you what you owe it to? Do what you want to do. And then you will be happy, and then you will have a motivation. But you have to have a purpose, and you have to have a direction. As Montaigne, my favorite philosopher, said, if I may quote him in the original French, aucun vent ne souffle en faveur du navire qui n'a pas de port de destination. And I dedicated my book, The Stress of Life, actually to my own children, who all lost their port of destination and couldn't find a career because whatever they taught them in school, they just didn't believe that was relevant to them. And I don't think that the dropouts are necessarily the most stupid. They are usually the most original people who have got enough intelligence to think it out and to find that in the present conditions, this sort of stuff isn't meaningful to them. Well, then they should change. If it is, they should not change. For those who didn't understand the quotation in French, I'll translate it into English as best I can. No wind blows in favor of the ship that has no port of destination. What's the use of having a good ship and favorable winds if you don't know where you want to go? And that's the trouble with the hippies, and that's the trouble with those who turn to drugs and destructive activities and revolutions and strikes and everything, because they have an awful lot of energy. It's not the ones who are lazy. They have a lot of energy and they want to do something, but they haven't got anything to do. They don't believe anymore in these values. So what do you do? Well, I was brought up by the Benedictine fathers in an Austro-Hungarian town called Komárom, and they taught us that we must be altruists. And I thought that that's perfectly obvious, because that's what God wants of us. And I tried to be an altruist. But unfortunately, I realized that I'm not. I was an egoist, and I tried very hard, but I still was an egoist. And I was terribly ashamed and complexed over it, because I felt that I should do that, because everybody agreed that a man who has some humanity in him must be an altruist, and I wasn't. And now I'm almost 70, and I'm still as much of an egoist as I was when I was a kid in school, only I'm not ashamed about it anymore. That's the only difference. Because I found out that egoism is a natural tendency of all living beings. From the amoeba upward, all animals look out for themselves first. And I think that's what they should do. Because I think it's even immoral to be an absolute altruist. If I expect you to work harder for me than I do, that's altruism, but that isn't very highly moral, nor very highly feasible. So, one has to somehow understand that the old adage that everything that is animal is present in man is true, but everything that is human is not present in animals. And it is equally important and imperative for human beings to be an altruist as it is to be an egoist. And how can you accomplish both? Well, that led me to what is now known as the Code of Altruistic Egoism. And again you laugh because it seems impossible, but I swear to you that it is, because what you have to do is only this. It seems very simple, but it takes some training to learn it. Instead of the accepted values which are not as solid as you think, because their credibility vanished, and they were in any case built up only on the unfailable and uncritical belief in the infallibility of whatever you follow, your divinity, your king, your political leader, or whoever it is. I think that these are not good values. Even money is not as safe as money in the bank used to be, because it's still in the bank, but it isn't the same money anymore. If it loses 10% of its value every year, what's the use of accumulating it at 10% interest? So let us try to find other values. Where do I look for them? Naturally, as a biologist and as a physician, I look for them in the laws of nature. The laws of nature, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, few people have thought that out, but it's very obvious. The laws of God, the laws of man, the civil code, the criminal code, the laws of any political party are prescriptive. That is to say, they tell you what to do and what not to do. And it seems that the word law implies that. It does not, because the laws of nature are not prescriptive. Water boils at 100 degrees centigrade at sea level, whatever you want to. It isn't that the physicist who found that out has got so many armies that he can do it, force it to boil at 100 degrees. It just does. Nature does not wish. Nature acts. Now, can we put together a code of behavior which necessarily must be prescriptive, because you prescribe yourself what you should do, out of the building stones of nature which are not prescriptive? In other words, what I'm trying to do is to give you good stones, beautiful stones to make a mosaic of, but make your own mosaic, do your own thing. I, as a scientist, give you only the stones. The stones are solid, otherwise I couldn't have photographed them. There's no doubt that these things do happen. If you are excited, you will secrete adrenaline and your heart will go up. Now, whether you want to risk the result of that you will get a cardiac infarct or not under certain conditions, that is your thing. You are your best physician, so do your own thing. So altruistic egoism is not that impossible. A man is an egoist and is a hoarder, but he doesn't have to hoard necessarily money or any social status. He can hoard goodwill. He can hoard the fact that he's welcome, he's necessary. He can hoard what in biblical times would have been called hoard love. But I mean love in its widest sense, not love between parents and children or man and wife, but the positive feelings of others. If you make yourself indispensable, who will attack you? That is the greatest capital that you can have. You see, let's take an example from recent history. Hitler had all the armies he wanted, the best trained military. He had an awful lot of money after he had all the money of Germany and of the conquered countries and so on. And the poor Jew, Einstein, didn't have anything. Hitler could kick him out of his native country, and he did. He didn't quite dare to kill him. That would have caused too much of trouble with public opinion, but he kicked him out. And who was stronger? Hitler died an ignoble death from having to commit suicide himself after having destroyed half of his beloved Germany and half of the world with it. And Einstein got about 6 offers of better chairs than he had in Germany. So who was stronger? The man with the tangible, accepted values of power, of money, or the man with the intangible or novel value of goodwill, of being necessary? Well, if you are an altruistic egoist, that's what you accumulate. And I will close with a sentence: although mine is not a religious code, it is neither dependent upon nor against any religion. It is quite independent of it, just as my prescribing a digitalis compound or a diuretic is independent of your race, religion, or political conviction. It is a natural code. But it comes down to exactly the same code as you will find in the Bible. It's not that I want to improve upon the Bible. I don't believe that that can be done, because I think that was the best behavioral code. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Only that it is not scientifically acceptable in the way it's formulated. The code is, but not the formulation. Just as the Bible had to be translated from the old languages, especially from Hebrew, into languages we can understand, so the Old English version had to be translated because it became less and less understandable. I think what they meant by love was not love on command, because you cannot love on command, but try to acquire love. You see, to give you again an example which is very common to everybody and is almost a platitude, the statement of the couple who are very much in love with each other and swore eternal loyalty at the altar, that is an untenable biological situation. Because the Julie, who was 18 and married the George, who was 22, could swear, they both could swear loyalty to each other as they were then. But at 58 and 62, they were not the same Julie and the same George anymore. Not a single cell remained the same. So you could stay faithful and loyal to your ideal to which you swore loyalty, but to say, George, love me, I love you, so you must love me. You swore it in front of God at the altar. That has no biological meaning at all. The only solid union is earn thy neighbor's love. The couple has to earn each other's love all through life, or they will lose it. It is possible to sacrifice yourself out of a feeling of duty on command, because you promised it. It is possible to die on the battlefield. The kamikaze pilots in Japan have shown how they could die on command by crashing with a bomb into an American battleship. But try to love on command somebody who is not lovable. You cannot love on command. So love thy neighbor as thyself is just biologically not feasible in this form. For one thing, it depends so much upon the neighbor. But without changing anything in the wisdom of this biblical saying and retaining the wisdom of this Bible, only trying to be the linguistic translator in the modern language of 1976 and be in harmony with these medical facts that I've just demonstrated, I want to close with my version of it, which is almost the same, which retains all the wisdom of it, but which is not biologically impossible, and shows you that the Bible is possible in scientific terms, only you have to read it well. It should read, earn thy neighbor's love. Thank you.
Dr. Seyle says that if there are one or two questions, he's prepared to answer them. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't know how medically sound the theory is, but there's a doctor in Texas who apparently is claiming to do wonders with cancer by putting the person at ease and somehow eliminating stress, and he seems quite terrific in not eliminating it, but arresting it for quite a period of time. Have you heard anything of this, doctor?
Yes, I know of that work, but it's very difficult to prove that, you know. I think that it is quite true that cancer is greatly influenced by stress. For one thing, these hormones, which I call the corticoids, are used actually in order to suppress immune reactions. And therefore an excess of corticoids in the blood would suppress immune reactions, and since cancer proliferates very much, if you have no immunological defense against it, it can in that sense facilitate the spread of cancer. On the other hand, there are certain other reactions which help cancer to grow, and it depends on the conditioning factors which way it will go. But I think that that's not the great secret of how you use cancer, use stress concept in cancer. It's a code you have to use. I may end perhaps, without becoming too pathetic, with a story I've never told before, but is coming out in my biography, which is being published by McClelland and Stewart next spring, and which I appropriately called The Stress of My Life. I told the story there that I have developed one of the most malignant cancers known to man, namely a reticulosarcoma, for those who know some medicine, which is sure to kill you within a year. And everybody told me that I have 1 year to live. And there was nothing to be done about it. It's only in the most exceptional rare cases that somebody survives a reticulosarcoma. Well, here I was stuck with it. I can't say that it pleased me, but I felt that this is my chance to see what my code can do during that 1 year. Because you see, there are two ways of looking at it. You can either say you have only 1 year to live, or you can say, why, you have a whole year to live. That's a whole difference. I tried to take it this way, and I have been assured by all members of the Institute that nobody noticed any difference when I came back from that hospital. They took it out and they radiated it, and I was sure that I was going to die in 1 year, but it didn't change anything in my behavior. I went on as if I were immortal, because I felt that what can I do about it? At least during that 1 year I can push the thing, my ideas and my concepts 1 year further, and I will leave the world in a little bit a better state. And that's that. It's not much, but it's that. And it so happened that I was the one happy exception. This is such a malignant cancer, if it doesn't kill you in 1 year, it just doesn't kill you, because it grows so rapidly that it invades everything. Well, it has now been 3.5 years since that operation, and my chances are pretty good. I might still die, since most people are mortal, from some other cause, but I think I got through it, thanks to my code, very easily, and it could have been a terrible thing to feel, first of all, to feel sorry for yourself during the whole year and to be a burden on society and make everybody around you ill at ease because they look at you as a man condemned to death. So I think in that sense, the behavioral code helps you much more against cancer than any hormones produced by stress. You can see how much that would please a man who wants to earn his neighbor's love and be useful.
I think we'll stop now, okay? I would just like to say before we end this evening that for a very poor chemist, Dr. Seyle seems to be able to mix his ingredients, those of information and humor, to produce a very excellent talk. I think we all came here to gain some insight into stress, and certainly I think we've done that, and I think we've gotten much more. And I personally, and I haven't checked this out with Dean Odette, would like to tell Dr. Seyle that any time he finds the key to preventing the aging process, I would love to have him back. Thank you.